What's up, everybody? It is Zach of Dark Hunt Entertainment, and I had some thoughts to get out about a movie that I had recently watched called Sinners. That's still in theaters right now, I believe. It's been about a week since I've seen it, but I thought I'd still get my thoughts out about it while they're still relatively fresh. It's a great movie, but not without some flaws, and I'll get to those flaws a bit later. But I guess some pros first. Like, Michael B. Jordan honestly was never really an actor that intrigued me enough that he's never been a name to make me want to go out of my way to see his movies and whatnot. Like, he always put a bit of a bad taste in my mouth with his performance as Johnny Storm, and not just because of the fact that they casted a black guy to play the character to play a white character, or what is normally a white character anyways, but just because of the fact that he was overly self-serious with the part. Like, Michael B. Jordan has always come off to me like an actor who takes himself way too seriously. And there is some article that I remember Loudmouth reviews in his review of Faint Four Stick, of where that he's shown some quote of where that Michael B. Jordan was all like, "Oh, you're all going to see it anyways," and well, we all know how that story went. That movie bombed, and he ended up getting some flack for the role that he was playing, regardless whether or not it's because of any race-related issues or not. It's just he's not Johnny Storm. He was way overly self-serious, and I guess he was better as Killmonger. Like, that was a role more suiting for him. But honestly, I've never been that big a fan of Killmonger as a character from Black Panther. I mean, I guess he's all right, but still. But this role, he actually plays two roles technically in the movie Sinners, because the two main characters are twins. So what's the easiest solution to that? Just have the same actor play as two different guys, and yeah. So there's a bit of that going on, kind of like of how that Jim Carrey played two different characters that weren't twins, but still in the Sonic 3 movie. Um, but this role seemed to be more tailor made for Michael B. Jordan. A bit of a man's man, masculine, badass type of character. And might I say, honestly, he was pretty badass. It was a little bit hard for me to keep track of who was who between the twins. Like, there wasn't any that great defining differentiation as far as physical features or even personality goes between the two characters. There is one point though of when that one of them is suspicious of the strangers that come up to their party and want to join, and the one of them is all like, "No, we don't want to let you in," and the other one is all like, "Oh yeah, let them in. They seem friendly enough." But it wasn't real differentiated as far as which one was which one was Smoke and which one was Stack, which was the nicknames of the two characters that Michael B. Jordan played as. But regardless, still kind of badass characters. I particularly found it badass of where that Michael B. Jordan. I'm just gonna call him Michael B. Jordan going forward. When Michael B. Jordan shoots a couple of people who attempt to steal from him and his truck while he had it parked out in Main Street there, and he shot them. What, like I said, shot them for attempted thievery, and I was like, hey, badass, based, kind of based. Although maybe I would not exactly do that myself, but hey, don't let thieves should not be thieving. What can I say? And there should be some kind of punishment and response to that. But regardless, and there was also the one point later on of, I guess this is getting kind of into spoiler territory, so mild spoilers. You have been warned. Where he fights himself. It becomes a twin versus twin fight, and it's kind of badass in a way, kind of like Batman fighting versus Batman, or Buzz Lightyear fighting versus Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 2, or anything else like that. And honestly, for the first third of this movie, I heard that it was going to be a vampire movie, and for the first third of this movie, there was no vampires shown at all, and so I was wondering, was I duped? Are we sure that this is a vampire movie? But for the first third of the movie, when there weren't any vampires, honestly, it was a nice kind of a vibe movie, and just seeing the chemistry on screen of all the characters interacting with each other, I liked that a lot. I also liked some of the storytelling aspects of this movie. Like, I liked the usage of how sins attract evil spirits, and the evil spirits in this case of this movie are vampires. There are vampires. Let me reassure you guys with that, though they just come in kind of late, is all. But I like that aspect of the movie, even though I disagree with the idea that playing or enjoying any kind of music at all that is not explicitly worshiping of God, even though that is supposedly sinful to some fundies out there, extreme fundamentalist Christians out there. Even though I disagree with that belief, I still like the usage of that bit of Christian theology for the sake of the storytelling in this movie, of how that multiple types of sins, and it's not just secular music being played, oh, is sinful, that is utilized as a sin that attracts evil spirits. There are other things too, like promiscuous sex, drug usage, and other kinds of things, just reckless partying, abandonment of a Christian lifestyle a bit. I mean, there is some religious elements to this, although I will say, reassure you guys that it isn't very heavy-handed with the Christian implications and elements that they do take it in this movie. In fact, there is like a one particular aspect that almost slaps in the face of that I'll get to a bit later, I think. But I liked all those stuff. I liked some of the action scenes that were kind of badass. But on the other hand, there was at least a couple of action scenes that I did not so much care for. One, at least in particular, I can think of the top of my head. And when that the action starts to become like one big group against another big group. And it just became such a freaking mess that it was really hard for me to make out of who was who in this in that bit of action scene. Like there were some points of where that I thought, oh, are the vampires eating each other? Like what's going on? Like for how it was staged, there was probably only like what was it, 7, 8 characters who were like good guys who were not vampires yet, having to fight off a swarm of vampires. And with how many people that were getting chomped on by vampires, it almost looked like that there was at least 3 people, regular people, that were getting eaten up by vampires. And I was thinking, whoa, are they really dealing off with the main characters that quickly? But then I see like the same amount of main characters that the movie has been focusing on still not vampired up. So I was thinking, did they just add a couple of extra good guys just completely out of thin air to this action scene so that they can add some kind of intensity to the very bare beginnings parts of the action scene here to make it look like vampires are eating up the good guys just right off the bat, but they're not going to kill off the main important characters so quickly. It was a bit weird, and again, it was messy and hard to make out who was who and who was killing who and so forth. So that is a bit of a flaw in my opinion. And there's actually another action scene, the other one that I was thinking of. When it becomes morning again, and it's just, again, spoiler alert here, people, and it becomes just one of the Michael B. Jordan twins fighting off a whole bunch of clan members. There's one point in that action sequence of where that he is just walking out in the wide open. Like, it's just a wide open field. There isn't any hills, no brush, or anything for him to take a cover behind. He's just walking rather, relatively slowly towards them, and as he's like firing off guns at them, and also at the same time they're firing guns at him. He like is killing a whole bunch of clan members as he's like walking and marching towards them, and they're shooting at him, and nobody hits him like at all. Like for a movie that is trying to play it straight, gritty, and serious, this action scene just kind of sucked me out of it. Like, if they really wanted to go for gritty and realistic, he would have taken more cover in that scene, or at least got shot more a lot earlier than he actually did. There is one point in this action scene of where that he does get shot and dies. Again, if you did not heed my spoiler warning, well then sorry, but yeah, he gets shot and dies, but it's like way later in the fight scene of where that he's already had a whole bunch of bullets flying at him, but apparently none of them are hitting him. Like, I can forgive this particular action scene in this movie if the movie was one to play it up all cheesy like some schlocky 90s action film. But I don't think that was what the movie was trying to go for. It's trying to go for something a little bit more gritty and not necessarily realistic. I mean, it's a movie about vampires, but trying to play the action of more gritty and realistic. So, yeah, again, because he did not get hit, he was getting shot at a crap ton way out in the wide open, and yet he wasn't getting hit. It just sucked me out of it. And another flaw is this movie seemed a little bit antagonistic with racial issues, like, but it's not near as bad as Get Out. Do any of y'all remember the Jordan Peele movie from a few years ago, Get Out, of where that it almost seemed like that they were just making like literally every single white character in that movie, and even the one Asian character that popped up for a little bit as nothing but bad guys, like literally every single one of them. So Sinners is not quite as bad as Get Out, but I still felt a little bit of that as you had like the main characters just consistently referring to white people as crackers and other kinds of slurs, and just there did not seem to be any implication at all that oh, this is kind of yeah, that's is kind of inappropriate and a bit racist or something like that. I will say that it does make sense, absolutely, on a storytelling level of how and why this is happening. Like, this is still like a early Jim Crow era, way before Martin Luther King would become a figure to help spur along the civil rights era. Um, and it's like a community of black people and some Asian people too that are self-segregating, self if I can speak, self-segregating themselves away from general white society, and so therefore they're not exposed as much to the racists and nor the good white people, nor even the indifferent white people. And so the only white people that probably would be around them would probably be like the actual racists and Klan members who would go out of their way to try and hunt for black people and kill them and so forth. So there is a little bit of storytelling sense to this and world building. So it's not completely out of the ether or something. But and I respect that. And I also do not have a problem in of itself with wanting to tell a black story, as I say rather loosely. Like I like a Beasts of No Nation, for example, and that was wholly a black story, set in Africa. But at the same time, I think that the movie Sinners could have stood to be a little bit less race relations antagonistic. And Beast of No Nation, for example, was nowhere near racially antagonistic at all. But I mean, it's not that big of a flaw. It's still overall good movie. Sinners is. It's just it did not set right with me in some cases throughout watching this film. Like I said, it's not near as bad as Get Out. I mean, there are at least a handful, I guess, of white characters that they do imply. Yeah, they're all right people, especially going towards the end of where that fast forward into the few decades into the future, where that's the main young kid who is a real talented musician. He grows old and so forth, and there's like this white bartender on the other side of the bar who, yeah, the implication, I guess, is that he knows him fairly well and has respect for him. And there is one part of where that a vampire tries to seduce him, and he's all like, "Get away from me! I'm no simp." So bit of a Chad move right there, I guess, on the one bartender. But speaking of the old black musician, I think dang it, I cannot remember the main kid's name. Sorry, I probably should have freshened up on some of the names a little bit better. But honestly, the main kid character, I did not really like him that much. All the characters all around it were like good characters. I mean, I liked them to some extent or another, aside from maybe the racial antagonism. But the main kid, despite him being like arguably the least racist of everybody in the movie, there was still one particular flaw with his character. Like, honestly, So going towards the end of the movie, after he's seen all this shit of all his friends and families getting butchered up by a whole bunch of vampires, seeing as how that his own music and everything seems to attract these evil spirits, that being the vampires, you would think that by the end of the movie he would resolve to being like, no more, I'm not playing music anymore. But as they go reverting back to the one scene that they shown at the bare beginning, that was kind of a flash forward scene. Like they showed the end of the movie at the beginning, then they flash back to the beginning of one day earlier. And when they go towards the end of where that he's back at where we seen him in the first scene, and he's being told by his preacher dad to drop the guitar and to abandon the sinful lifestyle that he was getting into the last few hours that attracted all the evil spirits. He decides, nope, I'm gonna keep on playing music. Like, I will. Let me firmly assert that I do not think that any kind of music that is not explicitly worshiping of God is inherently sinful. I don't agree with that, like I said earlier in this video. But if I did personally see something that would be evidence of hard factual evidence of the music that I listen to, like I'm into rock and roll and heavy metal and all that stuff myself. If I had some kind of hard evidence to see, yeah, this attracts evil spirits, I personally would abandon that type of music and consider. So if I was in this kid's shoes, I'd be like, okay, yeah, no more. But he still decides to go back to playing that music. It's like, are you fucked up, kid? Like, it seemed just very morally dubious. He might not he might have been ultimately the least racist of all the characters, or definitely the most tolerant. Let me put it in another way. But there was still this one thing that made him kind of the most morally dubious out of all the characters. Like, honestly, there was some moral dubiousness that can be talked about with a handful of the rest of the characters as well. But honestly, I think that was the stupidest choice out of all the characters. Him going back to playing the music that ended up invoking all these evil spirits and getting all his friends and families killed. Like, are you fucked in the head, kid? So yeah, it's because of that of why that the ending of this movie kind of left it a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, quite honestly. I think that's all that I had to say. One good thing that I will say, that I think I will say about this movie, was that the soundtrack was phenomenal. I really liked it. A wide variety of jazz, blues, and even a little bit of rock and roll. I mean, that wasn't of the period of the time because this is 1930s, and some of the rock soundtracks that they ended up playing in the background of the scenes sound like something from 90s or onward, but I still liked it for how that it was handled. And there was even like a bit of an Irish Celtic jig that the vampires do at one point, and honestly, that sounded like a very fun ditty too, for that matter. And I guess one other thing, honestly, the one black lady that ends up showing up in the cast of characters about a third away in the movie, she was real hot. Like, I'm talking about the older one with the big boobs. So yeah, there's that. But what do I have to rank this movie or rate it? I'm arguing between a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Like, it honestly was a very good, high quality movie. High quality thriller action horror movie, but there was a lot of flaws holding it back from giving me that good old 9 out of 10. But anyway, that was Sinners. If it's still in theaters by the time that you're watching this video, I highly recommend watching it and checking it out yourself. And sorry that I went on so long, but yeah, go check it out. And hope to see y'all in the next video. God bless.